Hello and welcome to this video on spiritual divination. Today is the day before Halloween here in America. It is the 30th of October, and I am doing this reading here um, sort of as a extension of my Friday weekly readings that I do on my Telegram channel. With Oracle deck. This is a more extensive reading, which I just did a few minutes ago, and I wanted to make a video about them because I just felt um, I did this reading with the collective in mind, and so I really wanted to share the outcome. So this kind of setup is a little different and new for me, so hopefully it's going to work out for us and for the video. You know, it's hard to display tarot sometimes on the internet, right? So what I'm basically going to do is I'm just going to pull up the notes that I just wrote on this spread here. I'm just going to close my notebook and I'll pull up the cards here too. So I'm going to share my screen. Now, the first shot I'm going to share here is the initial 7 cards that I pulled. So this is a typical spread that I do, and it is from my Fairy Oracle deck. I'll link a description below, or in the description below, excuse me, I'll link my deck, but I have a ton of information on these decks on my website if you're interested in them. Now, this 7 card spread is sort of used as an oracle, a yes or no, or direct type of angle of questioning when I use a spread like this. And so each card actually has a place value meaning to the setting to give guidance, and it also can be it's helpful to have these, aligning the questions with the placements. As you'll see in the video, I have added in sort of impromptu cards afterwards. So, but this specific beginning here, the 7 card spread, I did use directly from my Fairy Rings book, and I really like this spread, especially as like if you have a direct question to ask, right? So my direct question this morning was around ancestors, Halloween, Samhain, All Hallows Eve, the Day of the Dead, the festival traditions around this time, and how we can tune into that and what we should be tuning into really at this time, right? As well as in relation to or asking guidance and support around the inversions or the true negative aspects that we do see really strongly at this time of year, right? And maybe what the purpose of that could be, or what the real purpose in holding this type of space can be, and what we should be connecting to via our ancestors and their purpose and stuff. So I really wanted to get perspective from the cards, from the fairies, to help us to to align these things, right? And get some clarification about maybe some of the distortions that take place during this time. And so with that little setup, that's what I went into when I set up this whole space for my reading. I went into it with that kind of intention and questions, the energy of that, sort of seeking connection to ancestors in respective or respectful, excuse me, in a respectful manner around the actual time that we are in the present moment right now here at the end of October. So briefly, I'm just going to talk quickly about this spread here, and then I will get into the other cards. Now, hopefully I can put up this next. So as you can see here, this line, this is when I first took them, when I first took this picture, excuse me, was when I first flipped the cards, and right when I was getting my initial input, I snapped a picture of it. And what I really love to do here, I'll show you in the second picture image. I'll pull it over here, hopefully. I can just away. Is I brought them down just a little bit so that I could talk about the meanings and where I see the flow, right? And I love to kind of rearrange the cards just slightly in an order that I see the flow going when I'm doing readings. It helps my mind to organize the advice better, I guess. Um, and so I'm going to go through here quickly this first initial reading. And it is the first card, number one, is the truth of the present moment. Sometimes it can reflect the questioner, or it can be a signifying card of the moment. Um, a lot of times a card number one in a signifier position will kind of be confirmation that the cards hear you, and what aspect of what they hear you talking about are they ready to talk on, right? So usually it's a guiding point of what the advice can be about. And the second card becomes the nature of the query, right? The reasoning behind we're asking about this. And as you can see, the second card here, it did come up reversed, and I kind of denoted it a little lower down. Um, the third card is advice or things that could help. The fourth card will be possible hindrances, pitfalls, detours, things that we could struggle through. The fourth card, oops, excuse me, the fifth card. The fifth card is the best course to follow, or things that can be guidance that will be presented in the near future, right? Um, the sixth card is the root of the question, or the root of the issue, the underlying problem that is being confronted or has to do with the question. And then the seventh card is the outcome, the final card. Um, I love to say, if you were to pick only one card around this question, the final card, your last card, would be the card that the deck would choose for you to hear. So it's the overall, the most important message. And so as I go through these quickly, I'm also going to pull up closer. I took a couple closer images of the cards to just give you guys a better image of them, because I know this picture is kind of small and it's hard to see. So I'm going to just click through as I talk about them so you can hear. Hopefully I have. All right, yes, perfect. Okay, so card number one, we have aim. Now, Ain is a beautiful card that represents innocence protected through hard times, right? It's respecting and protecting the innocent, the children, the women, purity, kindness, and goodness, because you have learned very hard lessons about why that is so sacred. She generally represents perseverance through abusive or difficult times, like keeping the faith, right, is a message that's very strong with this card. The book's description, my fairy oracle's description for the upright meaning of this card, is usually heralding harmony, marriages, new romance or commitments, friendships, partnerships. So it has a really good energy about newness and loyalty and honoring a communion and community. And again, there's an undernote, there's a tying in of this karmatic lessons that learning through wrongness, right? In the traditions in my book, speak of ancient Irish legends where she was protecting women who have been raped, or those who have been wronged in some kind of way, right? Almost like a justice, vengeance kind of aspect to her in the fairy realm. And so as we look to card number one, right, and this is telling us, okay, the cards are wanting to talk about this. And so basically they want us to, right, remember why it is that we protect innocence, why it is that purity, kindness, goodness, um, new things, new children, new relationships, new commitments, right? How we can go into those with a space of sovereignty and respect. Card number 2, right, we said was the nature of the query. And as we can see here, it came up reversed. It is a mermaid card, which, there's a lot of things at play in this beautiful deck here, with meanings and the card workings. But again, we're drawn to the emotion, the water aspect here of this card, right? And the fact that it's reversed, and it's also talking about the nature of our query, why we're asking about these things, right? Um, why it is so important that we remember our ancestors, remember what we've been through, remember the hard times that brought to the good times, right? Um, in forgetting about that, right? And in misunderstandings with that, we have the reversal. And that can indicate, negative emotions being over amplified, turbulent waters, highly volatile or reactive kind of emotions. The book specifically on the reverse notes dammed up water, emotional stagnation, loneliness, isolation, barrenness, and despair as the type of energies and frequencies that are pulling from this message when it comes up reversed, right? When we see the mermaid reversed. Um, and it's really no surprise, and it's no two ways about it, that we have been very disconnected from tribal communities, from culture, from ancestors, and especially here in America where I am, and in my present world, in my community and my cultures. um, there is a lot of this sort of emotional stagnation, dammed up, waters, the refusal to sort of let things free and go as they will, right? Really constraining and restricting things and not allowing them to flow freely. It's no wonder it's becoming a big problem, right? So I'm going to move into card number 3 here. And card number 3, remember, is our help or assistance, things that we can call into, or the fairies would love to bring to us for assistance. And it's such a wonderful card here, the Habtrot, which is beautiful fairy message, a wonderful mythology behind this fairy here in my book. And it speaks about fairies coming to do, spinning work for others. And I don't want to get this video too long, so I'm not going to go into all the methodology behind each one, even though I do love to do that. Um, but here, I mean, the message of help and assistance is beautiful. This card in itself, whenever I see this card, right, it always reminds me to tap into faith, that everything happens for a reason, that great wheel of fortune spinning, right? To remember the fairies are behind the scenes doing things for us, and they can make miracles happen if we choose to believe in them and we choose to instill our trust and our love in them and our energy. They can work miracles for us because they do know what we really desire. And they seek to serve pure souls. Right? Goodness. The book in general marks for the upright reflection of this card as fate and destiny at work, and that the Habtrot is spinning fortune and luck into your life. You will see advancements, opportunities, perhaps a change of career. So I think it's very important for things to help us and assist us and to get us tapped back into um, the real faith and support that that can come with this time of year, right? With this transition period, to remember that it is supposed to be a time where we're expecting miracles, we're expecting spirit, fairies, our ancestors to pop in and do miracles in our lives at this time. And to expect, accept, and be grateful for those things, right? So into card number 4, which is possible hindrances, pitfalls, detours, things that we should work to correct or know that we're going to have a hard time working through, sort of obstacles that we can be in the forefront of here. It's really what card 4 helps us out with. Now, the fourth card here comes up as the brownie. And in the Fairy Oracle deck, it's beautiful because they have wonderful meanings for upright and reversed. And reversed is not always showing contrary thoughts or energies to the upright, like a traditional tarot. Or some other oracle decks out there, right? A lot of times traditional tarot, I like to read reversals as sort of key flags of how to turn it upright, right? Um, but in the fairy deck, they have some really beautiful reverse meanings that are actually not really directly inverted. Like the brownie here, the reversed um, really is more of a focusing on the external world instead of the interior world of the aspect of wonderful help from brownies. And um, the notion from this book is that the reverse will bring in recognition from outside of your family and home, admiration from people who are outside of your direct world. And I found it interesting that this would be in this placement here of possible hindrances and pitfalls. And when we put it in the scope of the giant question here about our ancestors, traditions, this time of year, the magic of the veil being thin this time of year, and just the magic, the imagination, right, of Halloween or All Hallows Eve, and just tapping into that. It's interesting to see as a hindrance this recognition from outside the family unit at this time of year, right? So it's kind of like, it feels like to me a jealousy aspect of exterior communities, maybe looking into interior internal, boundaried communities, almost like not worthy of it, or jealous of your traditions, or jealous of maybe you have a better history than they do, or they're more proud of their ancestors for this reason. It seems like it can actually create a lot of problems, and it has created a lot of problems for us as a collective, as humanity over time, right? um, Along those lines of others looking in on the cultural boundary, or on your own family unit, even within your own community, and causing jealousy, causing conflicts. And when we try to put people into hierarchies and make comparisons against family units, contributions, the limelight, whatever admiration we might feel for specific people. It can actually be a hindrance. So I thought that was interesting that I came up with that this way, and to see the insight and working of that. Ooh, I'm going to move into card number 5 here and try to bring up these guys down. Oh no, my things are getting out of line. Sorry for that. Here it is, the 3 final cards. Click through all the pictures first, right? So 5, the placement of number 5 wants to give us best courses to follow, or things to keep in mind as we're moving forward, right? The most important stakes to keep evolving through as we're moving forward. And the card that comes up again is reversed, and it is the fairy Tremor. And again, another beautiful whole message behind the mythology of this. But the key resonance of the card is this heart versus head decisions, and the conflicts that it causes, and how we can really work through those types of conflicts more harmoniously and more in touch with our emotional, spiritual selves, right? Because the lessons that come out behind this particular mythology are really, you know, denying that heart-centered choice. And because the main frenetic, logical thinking mind is concerned or worried about other things, and so it shuts off the heart answer and just says, no, we can't listen to that, all these other things are more important. And so I feel the the message here, the best course to follow, right, is to remember about these hard decisions and to understand when hard choices come up that it is so important to pull back both from the heart and from the mind, and to try as much as we can to look at them both excuse me, on equal footing, right? The fact that it's reversed as well in the book's meaning um, really pays focus to um, too many exterior pressures from outside world putting pressures onto the heart's choice and making the wrong choice based on exterior pressures. um, and when we look at our history and we look at our ancestors in this time of year, right, and maybe the ways we feel are right to connect, or the ways that we feel for our purpose here, or what we've been birthed here for, and what we're here to, sort of carry the flame or torch through with, um, can be, you know, seen from many different perspectives out there, and misunderstood. And we can feel a lot of pressures from different angles in the exterior world looking in, making judgments on that. And it can cause a lot of upset. So we want to keep that in mind, right? And always try to find this kind of harmonious solution between the heart and the mind. And then we bring into placement number 6 here with card 6, and that brings in the root of the issues here. And I thought, again, interesting placement, an interesting card, Garconer, for this. And he is a fairy known as the love talker, sort of a swindler, a swooner, somebody who comes in and tells you all the right things to get you to, you sort of fly off into a fanatical fancy with them, only to poof and disappear, when all the chips are down and you need something firm to grab onto, right? Um, and the book in itself marks this card as a red flag temptation, instant gratification at the expense of long-term happiness. And I think that really just speaks volumes and volumes and volumes to especially to my American culture and to the world in today. How the root of our lack of connection, the root of how this whole distortion of Halloween, of our ancestors, the mixing the time, the thinning of the veil, the grateful celebrations that we should be here with the magic of that time, and the mystery of it, the turning of the coin, so to speak, that this time and transition is supposed to be embodying, right? We really kind of gave up all the good solidness for the pretty face and the masks. And now just put on a fake little costume. It's all about the materialistic, buy the costume and go get the candy and Halloween trick-or-treating. Um, such a fake, shallow, frivolous trade that we made. And 7, the final card, the outcome. I love it. I just always say, right, if we've only drew one card on this topic, the saints, the angels, our spirits, fairies, they would come through with the final card. And our final card is the unicorn here. And it just is a card of beautiful blessings, right? When the unicorn pops into a spread, the fairies really want to let you know that you're treading on ground where blessings will follow. Healing, especially from the other world, is what this message is about. And the unicorn in itself is a harbinger of hope, of release of anxieties, spiritual inspiration, and true joy, right? And I thought that was just so beautiful, especially in itself, like the unicorn before winter is coming, when it's this sacred time before the great turning of like light to dark, the duality of the changing of seasons and all of that. Um, to see that unicorn message, right? The harbinger of hope and relief from anxieties, having known like you've made it through summer and through fall and all of the harvests, and having great plentifulness, knowing that you're fully supported and ready to make it through this tucking in time, this hibernation period of winter, right, of the slowing down. Um, I thought that was just such a nice, beautiful message to have for our seventh calling, and for them to want us to remember, most importantly, that this time is supposed to be a time of blessings and of hope and of relief from anxieties, not impending doom of dark winters and um, evil spirits encroaching, looking through corners to come and steal us in the nighttime. You know. Um, and so after I did those 7 cards, what I really wanted to do after was to draw and continue and pull out um, tarot cards to get a feel for. I really wanted to pull out additional clarification and some of like the stagnant emotions that we're stuck in as a collective, and how we might like accept our gifts more graciously, how we can work through these negative heavy potentials of jealousy, instability, and the hierarchy model that's really pushed upon us, how we could maybe move through that, or what we could use as guidance to move through that. So that's what I was thinking of as I pulled out my tarot and shuffled my deck. And as I was shuffling, actually cards popped out. And so I just went with it. 4 cards fell out and I pulled them up and went with it. And these are the 4 cards here that came out. I was they came out sideways, and as I pulled them, I flipped them the way I usually do, and this is how they came out: 3 upright and the star reversed. And so I thought it was great and important to leave the stars reversed, because I feel like they're telling us the inversion of hope, the inversion of direction and guidance and of true north, right? That to really keep that in mind always, and to be careful of it, to tread carefully, and have our again, like this battle between the heart and the mind, to knowing what's true, to hearing and knowing the real truth, and not being confused um, by exterior perspectives trying to point fingers and poke their opinions in. I felt like that was a really important marker when I pulled out these cards. Excuse me. And the cards themselves came out really beautifully. We have the 9 of Cups, the 7 of Swords, the Star reversed, or just the Star, depending on how you choose to read it, and the 6 of Cups. And these all are really strong, really supportive communal cards, right? The 9 of Cups we see as fulfillment, completion of like relationships, of social exchanges, and of community, and um, of social positionings and hierarchies. Um, we see those really plentiful, working really well, and sharing well. The 7 of Swords, mastery of words, mastery of communication, of speaking and sharing ideas and beliefs and um, narratives, even. Because we have to be watchful, as I said before. The star is reversed as well, so I do feel it's a calling to remember the double-edged sword of these things. And even with the 9 of Cups, we have to remember that the 9 of Cups can, in our world and time, in the inverted negative 3D matrix, the 9 of Cups can be seen as hierarchy working to perfection, the completion of top down instructions, and in communal societies. It can also be a beautiful image of patriarchy or monarchy, in a sacred way. And same thing with the 7 of Swords, right? It's a mastery of knowing and speaking truth and hearing real truth, and being able to discern, to choose what to say and what not to say, and how best to do that when interacting with others, especially. The 7 of Swords, I feel like, especially in this setting, is really about that through trial and error, through perseverance, through true mastery of leading by example, and experimentation, exploration, right? Understanding true worth, what is meant to be held and taken with us, and what is meant to be left behind, right? And if we kept our ancestor heritage, our lineage more alive, our cultural stories and our traditions, we are more connected to them, we could make those choices much better about what was meant to be left in the past and what we carry forward to the future, right? But again, we have to remember this inverted star, and maybe they've used that as tactics, right? And how do we become aware of that? And the star itself, like I said, it can be a beautiful true north. It's your calling, it's your harmonious tune that your vessel plays, specific note of the creator source that you are, right? And how do we bring that upright? I love to see reversals as true working, a calling for you to upright that, right? They want us to hone into our truth. They want us to reconnect with that, line to God, or to your ancestors, to your direct lineage, right? And connect to it truthfully. And then we look at the Six of Cups here, right? And it's another fulfillment of communal society, of relationships in your direct world, right? And a perseverance through those, right? The six in itself really shows us what sticks through time. The five has come already and shook it all up, and the six comes through when everything settles and we see what's left. We see how it's standing, what stayed, what didn't. We're able to move through those things that no longer serve us and really hold true and allow to flourish and grow beautifully those things which are still here, right? The beautiful plants in all of the cups that are still upright, right? They are stronger than ever because they've made it through the growth pattern that is reflected in the six. I got to get my charger. I got my computer here. Sorry, guys. Let me pull this just a little closer so I can make it work. Going on a little longer than I wanted, but that's okay. So as I worked through those, right, and I was really honing in, excuse me, honing and harnessing at the same time, um, into this kind of the star being inverted, and also, is that just what this time of year is about? Noticing the inversions, respecting the inversions, is it more of a light and dark work kind of aspect, where we can look to sort of sacredly respect those oppositions and just see what they are and just hold them for what they are, right? And so I went into that kind of understanding and seeing where that was what the cards were speaking to us about. And I asked for some final guidance. And in the final guidance, I wanted to choose one card from Saints and Angels deck to see if we could pull one message that we could really work with, that they want us to push through here, and a saint at this time of year to work with. And I wanted to pull just one card from my Mandala Oracle deck, sort of as a tagline, sort of quote or phrase that we could use to empower us at this time, right? And so I'll pull up my final here. And this is the final. We have, you can see on my petrified wood, I put the forgiveness card of Mary Magdalene. And then this other card here from my Oracle deck is such a beautiful mandala painting. And I just thought it works so wonderfully if we look at it here. I'll pull it up so we can see it closer. It literally looks like this time of year of what we would be doing, right? Like honoring the spirit world here, and they're watching over us in the sacred mound tradition of, with the tree rooted, growing on top of it, beautiful path. And then we have the wonderful angels are on earth here, right at the path. It just seems like such a beautiful card for this time of year as well. And so here's the final all out layout. And just to speak quickly, I will read the forgiveness message at the end here from Mary Magdalene. I think just is beautiful. The answer to your question involves letting go of resentment, judgment, and anger. You already know who or what to forgive. It's the first person or situation that comes to mind. You don't necessarily have to pardon the action involved, but this card is a message for you to release the toxins of anger towards person, agency, or situation. Unforgiveness only hurts you, not the person of whom you're angry with. You're preparing for a wonderful new chapter of your life, and forgiveness is part of your preparation. It is a refreshing, deeply healing shower of love that cleanses you inside and out. That this gives you energy, stamina, and high self esteem. It frees you to be yourself. Call upon St. Mary Magdalene to help you to forgive or be forgiven so that you can move on in your life and your dreams. And wow, right? What an important reminder and marker for us. This time, this tradition, Halloween, All Hallows Eve, forgiveness. Forgiveness of our ancestors, forgive them for the past, the choices they've made, why we're here, forgive all of it and move forward and forgive ourselves and cleanse ourselves and clear it all out, right? Before this hibernation time, before the sacred, holy cleansing time of winter and of purity, right? That calls in. Um, and finally, we have the note from the Oracle Mandala, which was a quote from Eleanor Roosevelt. And she said, "You must do the thing you think you cannot." And I just thought that was just unbelievably beautiful and so telling, right? Forgiveness can be so hard for us this time of year, it can be really hard for us. Moving forward from those who have passed on, picking up the torch from our ancestors can be very difficult. We don't want to do it sometimes. Sometimes we just feel we can't go on anymore, right? The things you think you cannot do, you must. Um, and just to bring it back into the underlying tone of inversions and of calling back truth to our our roots, our traditions, and everything, right? Even if you feel like you can't do it, and even in my personal perspective, right? I don't know where I came from. I have absolutely no heritage or lineage to follow back to anything other than American. um, and unfortunately, anyone who is old enough in my family to be able to remember and pass that on is gone. And what do you do at that point, right? But forgiveness and beauty, right, come through this time. And with that, I think I'll just close on the notes that I wrote here quickly before I started the reading. I came through with a beautiful message from ancestors that says, "Though I know not your faces or names, I love and appreciate you all the same. There is only one path from which we came. Past and future all remain, untouched, untainted. Simply, we just rearrange them." And with that, I'm going to close this video. Thank you so much for listening and watching this reading. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you'll tune in to me. In the meantime, you can always find me on Telegram or on www.amariespeaks.com directly, where I share a ton of free resources and tips and tools across all means of introspection, spirituality, and happiness. If you do love tarot, oracle cards, so do I. You can find plenty of videos on my YouTube and BitChute all about spiritual divination and the practice. I also have an entire tools section on my website dedicated to divination, so you can check that out if that interests you. Um, in the meantime, I'll be going back to segments on the negative agenda and also into my Comprehending Consciousness series. So I hope you'll catch me on any of those. Thank you again so much for joining me this time, and I'll talk to you soon.